Hi all and welcome to Freewill Life UK. I am your host, Francesca Owasho-Campbell, and today's topic is, what does feminism mean today? So let's get into it.
Black Boy Productions. Black Boy Productions.
So over the last couple of years, I've been hearing on social media, feminism. And what does that really mean? What does it mean to be a feminist? In today's society, all I see is feminism represents all the negative things that men do. Feminism doesn't represent me. I am not a feminist for a few reasons. Yes, I do believe in equality for all, and that's all races, all religion, all genders. But I also believe that we are equal, just in different ways. I'm a female, and I believe I'm equal to my male counterpart, but we don't want the same things. I'm a woman, and I like my role as a woman and as a wife. I'm nurturing, yes, sometimes stubborn-headed, but I think that's human nature. I do think that we have our roles for a reason. Men are not as nurturing as women. We carry babies, we have periods. There's just certain things that men cannot do that women can do, and vice versa. I don't have a penis, I never will, so I don't want to be a man. I don't want male attributes. I don't want to fight for equality because I think we are equal anyway. People talk about equal pay at work. We don't do a lot of the hard work that men do, the laboring. And as a woman, we choose what type of work we go into. And 9 times out of 10, it's lower paying jobs. Yes, there are exceptions to the rule, and I know that, but we're talking about the rule, the majority. There's just certain things that women get that men can't. And in society today, I think men get a raw deal. I mean, I think in today's society, there's loads of things out there for women, but not for men, like homeless shelters for women, refuges for women. When men are being abused by their partners, there's nowhere for them to go. And even when they call the police is like, man up. Society today has said that women are right and men are wrong. And I think that needs to change. I was born in the UK, but I was raised traditional. I am Nigerian, and there are definitely differences between the gender roles. And I've always known that, and I always will know that. I don't know where the lines got blurred, but we are going to try and understand where it got blurred, how it got blurred, and where we can come together and find a solution. I'm going to show you a clip from Good Morning Britain where 2 ladies are discussing, what does feminism mean today?
There is a lot of confusion about the term feminism. And one of the reasons why people don't feel comfortable with it is they feel it's been besmirched.
Yeah, 100%, which is why I've written a new book about it, because I really believe that feminism, we need to redefine what feminism is. We need to get back to the original meaning of the word, which is about advocacy for women's rights and a push for equality of the sexes. I don't know how anybody could be against that.
It's really interesting. We ran this poll back in January where we asked people, are you a feminist? And the vast majority of people, 83%, said they don't call themselves a feminist. We then asked, do you believe in gender equality? which is what essentially feminism is. And 88% said they do believe in gender equality. So there's something about this term that has become so tainted that people don't want to use it. I mean, Ella, do you think, therefore, we should just abandon this term completely?
I think it goes further than the term. I think it goes further than vocabulary, because what actually this is about is that feminism as a politics has become defunct. So it's not about women's liberation. It's not particularly interested in abortion rights, childcare, the kind of key. There are, you know, that
exactly what it's interesting.
No, well, if you open up a paper today and and leaf through and look at what the kind of feminist issues are, it's about Me Too. It's about periods, it's about body issues, it's about things that on the whole most women don't necessarily worry about. If we stepped out onto the street and we stopped a woman and we said, what's your political identity, you know, what do you define yourself as, bet my life savings, small as they are, that she wouldn't say feminist. And I don't think that's just a vocab issue. I think it's because feminism is not serving women. That's why I wrote a book called What Women Want, because it's forgotten what it is most women actually want, which is not a kind of superficial discussion about how we feel.
See, I think this is the problem. The problem is we are forgetting what it really stands for. And I would say you are a feminist. I would say whether you like it or not, you're a feminist because you believe in equality.
But isn't that so interesting you say that? I mean, the Fawcett Society did a study.
What a great society they are, indeed.
That showed that only 7% of people called themselves feminists and only 9% of women did. And the Fawcett Society ran the headline, "We are a nation of hidden feminists," which is essentially saying these women don't know what they're talking about. These women's opinion doesn't matter. They don't know that they're feminists. I mean, you just said to me, June, you don't, whether you like it or not. You know, I'm telling you.
I would say you're a feminist.
Feminism 100%. As a term only came around.
I've read a lot of your work.
Feminism only came around really as a word in the 1980s. But if you look it means something quite specific.
If you look up the dictionary definition, it says the advocacy of women's rights on the grounds of equality of the sexes. So it's quite clear.
How can you have a problem with that?
Hasn't it just been a bit muddied by what people have tagged onto it? But if you strip it back to actually what it is intended to mean, it's just about equality, isn't it?
No, we can look at dictionary definitions and they're very important, saying that as a journalist. But as a politics, what it's come to mean today is a victim narrative. So in every way that feminism enacts itself in politics, and you know the way that professional feminists like yourself talk about women as being victims, this is nothing to do with
spoken about
in relation to the Me Too movement.
Not at all. I believe in the power of women. Not at all.
You know what she's saying is the word is damaged, the cause is good, but the word is damaged. And so why just forget the word and embrace the things that people can identify with?
No, not at all, Kate. Because actually, the problem is we have forgotten what the word means, and what I'm saying is we need to remember what the word means.
But why do you need to re-educate people about the word rather than just deal with the issue?
But let's deal with
because
something
we need to
deeper
call
than the
it
word.
something. We need to give it a term.
Let's deal with something deeper than the word. I mean, because actually, you know, I mean, the word feminism is a funny one because you can go into if you really want to talk about the significance of the word, I mean, you can go into H&M or anywhere and buy a glittery feminist bag. So if you wanted to just look at,
come on,
and if you wanted,
but what's wrong with that? By the way, what's wrong with the
feminist? To me, oh no, it's not ridiculous.
It is.
In the 80s when feminism first came around, it was a radical. It wasn't something that it wasn't something Meghan Markle would have called herself. It was a radical, threatening in a kind of positive way, dangerous term.
But you are forgetting first wave feminism, and you're forgetting second wave feminism. No, because we're not talking about the 80s. We're actually talking about the women's movement.
The issues that women face today are different from the 80s, and also the politics of feminism today is different. It's much more passive. It's much more victim narrative orientated. And as we can see, women aren't interested in it. I want to talk about what women are interested in, and there are still things that women need to fight for, like abortion rights, like childcare provision.
The very things that feminists are fighting for.
But feminism today has become a middle-class girls' club, and it rules out the interests of women like me, of my family.
Last word to June, because you've made it very quickly, June.
Yeah. My point is, I think what we have to look at is an intersectional approach. We need to make sure that all women are brought on this mission. And actually, when we get to what feminism really stands for, I would say the majority of people, men and women, agree with it.
So you heard it there. I do think June Sarpong should understand why women do not call themselves feminists anymore, because it's been tainted. Today's feminists are saying things like, all men are trash, fuck men. And if it was the other way around, the men saying, all women are trash, fuck women, it would be a very different story. Men are not respected anymore. And this is where feminism has come into play. It has been taken so far left that women who are independent or seem to be independent are taking this independency to new heights. Now, don't get me wrong, it is amazing that women are independent. It is amazing that women have come so far, but we have come so far at the detriment of men. Why is it that a lot of men below a certain age cannot establish real homegrown relationship with women? Women today think because they earn more money than they ever have, that these men don't earn as much as them or earn more than them, but is at an average earning point, that they're beneath them. I don't understand that. And a lot of these women will say they're feminists. I'm flying the flag for the feminist movement, but it's not serving you. And we see it time and time again, that it has not served us, because so many women are single in today's society, having less children, families are not even being formed. And where does that hold us in the future as human beings? Where do we see ourselves? Because we are at breaking point right now. I think women need to take accountability for their role in why society is the way it is today, why there's so many broken homes. And you can't just blame the men. Yes, men also have to take accountability, but you have to look at self first. You cannot keep pointing the finger. And feminism is not the way forward, especially the feminism that we have today. We have to work together. We have to understand each other, because with no understanding, we will definitely not move forward. Population will definitely decline. Think about it. Actually sit back and think, why is it that we see so many male bashing on social media today? And it's okay. But when men say the same thing, or when men are trying to counteract that, they're cancelled, they're misogynistic, not taken seriously. Every view needs to be heard. And you cannot just cancel out one side. It's not going to work that way. It just isn't. Why is it that we as women want to do the worst things that men do, like cheat? Or if it's not cheating because you're not in a relationship, going out there and having sex casually, because it never ends up good. We're emotional. Men are not as emotional. We're equal, but we're different. That's the main point. And yes, some traditions need to change. I get that. But your core value and morals have to kick in and make you understand that you have a role as a woman and you have a role as a man. Also, what I find is when women are saying the things that I'm saying, we get cancelled. We're called men pleasers. Why is it not okay to be a feminist? Let's take a look at a clip that I found from Good Morning Britain asking the same question.
think this is all symptomatic of a really worrying trend that's happened recently, whereby we've seen the same recycled bigotry that was thrown at the suffragettes, Germaine Greer, feminists throughout the centuries. But every new wave of feminism that comes along, you have a right-wing lobby trying to discredit it, taking the most extreme and most easy to ridicule examples of what a feminist is, trying to undermine equality.
What have you got against the term feminism, and why can't people like Dominic Raab, why shouldn't they come out and be very supportive of the term?
Well, I think unfortunately it doesn't mean equality for everyone anymore. I think that's what the term meant decades ago. I think the first and second wave feminism cared about equality in the workplace, control over our bodies, things that really make men and women equal. But the reality is that modern day feminism is more interested in talking about sex strikes and getting Formula One to ban the grid girls than it actually is in the issues that I think still really face
I think,
women.
as Natasha said, I don't hear that very often, sex strikes. I don't hear that so much. It is people.
All of the modern
if you ask
feminist
people
rhetoric.
what feminism was, they would say it is essentially about equality.
Well, it's a very good point, because when you do ask women if they're feminists, the majority say no. A study this year found that over 90% of women don't identify as feminists. A more generous study last year found that 65% of women don't identify as feminists because they understand that equality and feminism are no longer synonyms. To be honest, to be a feminist is to ooze a political ideology just as being a party member is these days, because there is a manifesto. And if you hold a different opinion on the gender pay gap or on sex strikes or on porn laws, you're not allowed in the club. You're told you're the wrong kind of woman. That's why most women don't identify.
And this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is the reason that more and more women aren't identifying with the word. That's a tragedy. And it's because of this stereotype that is being pandered by publications like yours and by journalists like you. When I think of the fourth wave feminist, I think of Nimco Ali, who's campaigning to end FGM. I think of Amika George, who's successfully campaigned to end period poverty in schools. Think of Ellen Jones, who's doing so much for women with autism. I think
of Malala Yousafzai.
Education
for women in
Jessica Foster-Q, who wants women in Northern Ireland to be able to choose whether or not they have an abortion. These are the women that represent the movement, but they are never represented by people who want to undermine the movement.
Well, no, let's be honest here. They're not represented by the celebrities, by the Lena Dunhams of the world, who are actually championing the modern day definition of feminism. You just named some fantastic women, but this ideology of feminism is not what's supporting them anymore.
Michael, we had loads of reaction to this. Michael on Twitter says feminism seems to be an ugly word these days, and many feminists seem to be dictating to other women what they can do and demonizing men in the process. It doesn't seem to stand for equality anymore, rather than select what it wants. Is that the problem, that actually that perhaps Dominic Raab and others don't want to say they are feminists because they think that means you're anti-men?
It's not just Dominic Raab. He represents the majority of women in this case, right? Most women don't want to identify with this, because if you are a free thinker, I'm attacked for publications like mine. My publication actually breaks down statistically what the gender pay gap is in the UK. And if you take job and age into account, women are doing very, very well compared to their male counterparts. But goodness forbid I say that. I can't.
But they're not equal, though, are they? In lots of places, so equality isn't there. And
no. Sorry, equal pay for equal work has been illegal since 1970. If that is taking place, you take your employer to court. Women and men are equal in many, many aspects of 2019.
In many industries, the gender pay gap has been shown that it's not been equal.
That's not equality. We need to be really careful about this. The gender pay gap and equal pay are not the same thing. Sure. If anyone dares to say they are, they're misrepresenting the statistics to women. And we are accused of not being feminists and not being good women because we're interested in mass, and it's absolutely ridiculous.
No. So the most recent statistics shows that the 10,000 companies that have submitted their salaries to a public inquiry, around 10,000 companies, 8,000 of them, there was a significant difference in the median pay between men and women. Now, you might argue that it's illegal to pay two people doing the same job a different salary, but we need to ask why, as a society, we are devaluing the work that is generally done by women. That's the real question to be asked of the gender pay gap.
I would love to see actual evidence that we are devaluing the work that women do.
Literally just gave it to you.
No, you didn't. You are trying to take crude statistics, and you're trying to be able to say that because of these crude statistics that don't take anything meaningful into account, job, age, background. You're literally comparing the CEO of a company to the 22-year-old researcher, and you're trying to tell me that this is unequal, that this isn't feminist, that we have a major issue on our hands. I'm saying actually engage with my statistics. Don't just point fingers and tell the majority of women who don't identify as feminist
Do you think
they're committing some kind of sin.
there is a divide then in terms of there is sort of a modern feminism, but then there are millions of women around the world who are still waiting for basic rights. You look at women in Saudi Arabia, you look at women in other parts of the world who are meant to be able to drive, but they can't, or if they dance, they are persecuted, or all the abuse that women get online. You know, we've heard from MPs, Jess Phillips, you know, so somebody saying I wouldn't rape you. You know, all of that sort of stuff is still stuff that feminism needs to be fighting against, isn't it?
And you know what? I used to believe, and I did actually write a piece for the Telegraph in 2013 in which I said, you know, this is what modern feminism is. It's all about banning page 3 and grid girls and all the things that have been cited already. I had fallen into that classic trap of believing what feminism was as portrayed by right-wing rhetoric. I then took the time to educate myself and spend time with feminist campaigners. And I realized that feminism is a very broad church. There's a lot of debate. There's a lot of people who stand for different things. But ultimately, everybody is working towards their version of equality. And it's like a patchwork quilt. You have your patch that you sew, whatever it is you're passionate about. But there are lots of British feminists who are fighting for women overseas as well.
I think it's very obvious from this conversation that feminism isn't a broad church. We've heard attacks on right-wing women. We've heard attacks on women who are interested in statistics. We've heard attacks on women who would dare question the orthodoxy of feminism. I think all this proves to me that as much as I would like it to be a broad church, as much as I would like us to have those debates, most women cannot fit into the very narrow box that fourth wave feminism has brought on. Most women, of course, I mean, virtually all people believe in equality, but you can't fit into this narrow box.
What it means. I've never heard of it. I don't really.
If you dare step outside these orthodoxies, you're not welcome in the club.
Jen on Twitter says feminism would not need to exist if we had equality. So is it? There is still. Is feminism needed? Do we need this movement? I think still, in your opinion, actually. You don't believe in it, but you believe in something, surely, for women.
I believe in equality, and I think that the terms individualism and humanitarianism encompass, for me, the good aspects of feminism from the past and get rid of the modern day aspects.
To give you an example, if we just said, you know, humanism and individualism was the way forward. Homosexuality, for example, we had to concentrate on homosexuality. We had to support that group, and without supporting them, without singling out the discrimination they received, they would never have had the rights that they have now. And surely feminism does the same thing. It supports, all it's doing is making the focus and the support for women's rights. That cannot be a bad thing. That can only be a good thing. Now, surely it's like, okay, some people are going to misuse that. Some people are going to become more extreme in that version. But the very basics of feminism, you have to own, surely.
If we're looking at the groups that actually champion gay people, women, trans people, you should look to the classical liberals. You should look to those who are fighting for those civil rights. I wish that what you said were true. I wish that feminism were championing the rights of people, but is much more interested these days. So the celebrities are much more interested in making headlines about sex strikes and about grid girls than they are about the very important issues that you discussed. So I wish we lived in that world, but the reality is that we don't. And I think feminism has now been dominated.
I think the listeners gave earlier. I mean,
most women don't live in that world that you're talking about. Most women don't identify with the feminism that you wish existed.
We can talk about most and how many.
Human beings are tribal animals. We are not meant to exist as individuals. That is catastrophic, both for our society, for our mental health, for our health generally. We are supposed to rely on each other and help each other out. Everybody should be committed to gender equality, and we'll still need feminism after we achieve it, because it would be daft to throw something out that has worked in order to achieve
gender equality.
It is fascinating, isn't it?
You know, as females, you've both been able to express your views equally on the show, and feminism is there. I think we need to encourage debate. I think it's probably a bit of what you've all been talking about.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah. Lovely, nice to talk to you both.
So there's a few things that I wanted to talk about there. So equal pay to equal work. I think that should go without saying. If I am a lorry driver and we have a male lorry driver and we do the same thing, we should get paid the same. But most of the time, we don't do the same thing. I enjoy coming home and cooking. I enjoy nurturing my husband and my son. I enjoy that, to see a smile on their faces. That's what makes me happy on a day-to-day basis. And it's not for everybody. So what does feminism mean to you? Comment below, like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.
Black Boy Productions.